Welcome back to Mass Appeal, named as, quote, the place to eat in Great Barrington by the New York Times and, quote, where to eat by the Boston Globe. Castle Street Cafe in Great Barrington is a hidden gem in the Berkshires.
Chef Michael Ballin joins us with a recipe for short ribs braised in Big Elm Stout. And I saw a finished product, and it looks amazing, Chef
Really
Mike.
good.
Thank you very much. Well, it's the week before the Super Bowl, and people are starting to make plans. So I thought what we try and do today is just raise the bar a little bit about Super Bowl cuisine and make something that's a little more ambitious than just chili or pizza.
Chips and dip. And,
A
yeah,
meal,
you're right.
like an actual meal, right?
And the dish we're going to make takes a lot of cooking time, but it doesn't take very much
Prep time.
So the game plan for the day is before the pre-game show starts, we're going to make this. By the time halftime comes, your food is done, and it's only going to take about 15 minutes in the kitchen.
Sounds good to me.
And your kitchen's going to smell good. And if you're sad that the Pats aren't going to be in the Super Bowl, you can be excited about short ribs.
You can take solace in this.
Right,
And
in this
exactly.
recipe.
As people are getting ready to, Super Bowl and beer kind of go together, well, that's also the theme for today because we're going to be cooking with beer. This is Stout from Big Elm Brewery in Sheffield, Massachusetts, which is a local brewery, and this is going to add tremendous amount of flavor. People are familiar with cooking with wine, but yes, you can also cook with beer, and this is going to end up being a family-friendly meal because all the alcohol is going to cook out, and there's no reason why you can't serve this to anyone. So what we're going to start out doing is browning some boneless beef short ribs, and as you'll see, this is a nice thick chunk of beef.
And you were saying short ribs, if you're going to get them in the store, it's a relatively inexpensive cut of meat.
Much less expensive than steak or prime rib or filet mignon or most other cuts of beef. The less expensive cuts of beef sometimes take more time to cook, and what that means is when this simmers in liquid, it's going to be tender, it's going to cook for a long time. You can't overcook this. It will not be dried out. It won't be overcooked like a steak sometimes can be.
Can be tough and dried out, yes. I've done that before.
So it's difficult to mess this up, which is music to my ears.
I know, me too. Now, while you're getting this all prepared and putting some fresh herbs in there, tell us about Castle Street Cafe, Chef Michael. And I know you're celebrating 25 years this year.
Yeah, very excited. Not many restaurants make it for 25 years. We started out in one space, and then when the opportunity to expand came, we doubled in size and added a piano jazz bar. We're right in the heart of downtown Great Barrington, right next to the Mahaley Theater, which is a classic old
Great venue.
theater. So there's some great concerts coming up there, like Cowboy Junkies and Andy DeFranco, and we have the good fortune to be right next door. So I feel like we're in the theater district in downtown Great Barrington. It's a very exciting place to be.
So if people are going to a show, they can come and grab something to eat beforehand. They'll be full the whole time, and they can dance the night away.
Or they can go to your restaurant and get a show where there's jazz music.
That too, and there's quite a few jazz musicians from the Pioneer Valley, Springfield, Hartford area who travel to Great Barrington because the reality is there are not very many venues for jazz, so we have some great musicians, a wide variety of music, and it's a fun place to go out for the night.
And the food we're looking at right now, this looks pretty good.
So we're going to brown these short ribs for a little bit. And
Is that just thyme that you put on there?
Yeah, a
or?
little fresh thyme and salt and pepper.
So you're letting the ingredients do the talking. There's not a lot of other things in the dish, you know what I mean?
That is true. This is a relatively simple dish, but sometimes the best things in life are simple.
Well, and I think that's true of Great Barrington cooking. You know, a lot of the cooking out in the Berkshires is exactly that. You get good ingredients, you get local ingredients.
We do, and we like to feature local ingredients, and really the star of this dish is the Big Elm Stout. I'm sure there's local microbreweries in the Springfield and Hartford area and throughout Western Massachusetts. It's really been a huge change in America. I mean, 25 years ago, these kind of breweries didn't exist at all.
You could count them on your hand.
And now they're everywhere.
Every town you can count them on your hand. There's so many of them. It's amazing.
So we're just going to brown this a little bit. And then once it's nice and browned, into the pan.
You take the meat out once you brown it? Okay.
I've got some
diced onions?
Finely diced onions.
Now I see it's almost like a...
It's almost a puree.
Yeah, almost a puree. So
and then
really
in
fine.
contrast, I've got these shallots.
Completely. Yeah, I know, total contrast,
But
right?
this is the interesting thing. You're putting in full shallots. Why are you doing that?
You know, you have these big chunks of beef. They're going to cook for a long time in the oven. sometimes food kind of shrinks or falls apart in the oven. I want to start out with something that's pretty big and recognizable. And also, I like to see what I'm eating.
Yeah, you want
I
to
like
know what it is.
I'm eating.
Yeah.
There's no mystery or surprise like this, because as you'll see later, when this comes out, my God, there's a big shallot in my beef, and it has a lot of flavor.
There's a big shallot, and you could actually eat it. It won't be overpowering. It'll be just cooked in all the flavors, and oh gosh, I'm dying to try this. So now you just have some peeled carrots, and you're just chopping those up. And now, once you put the onion and the shallot and the carrot in, do you add the beer on top of that immediately, or do you? Okay, I didn't know if you had to brown the ingredients that are in there now.
These are going to brown for a little bit.
Okay.
And you know what I'm loving about this recipe too? It's big game food, and normally when you're getting ready for the game, you have those fatty foods. You know what I mean? You got your chili, you got your nachos. There's nothing bad for you in this.
And this is really hearty food, and you know, I like to encourage people to cook at home. I think there's a lot of TV cooking which tries to intimidate people at home from cooking, but this is really pretty simple. As you'll see, we're going to do the cooking part of this. The prep part in real time is going to spend the next 2.5 or 3 hours in the oven cooking slowly, but you can be out and about doing whatever you want.
Yeah, this is when we plunk on the couch and we start watching the game. This is about first quarter right now, starting.
So I've got some garlic in, I've got this beef in. You see, that's a pretty substantial piece of beef.
Oh yeah, it's a nice piece.
And then we just let it sit for a little bit.
Sauce.
Barbecue sauce.
Homemade barbecue sauce.
Ooh. Nice.
A homemade barbecue sauce, that's probably what? You know, you have some vinegar in there?
A little brown sugar, some tomato paste,
Good.
garlic. I've got some tomato paste here as well. And that's going to thicken this and give it some nice good flavor. And what you want to do really is submerge this beef in Big Elm Stout.
Oh, do you need more than one can?
Well, this is going to take about 2 cans, I'm going to say.
Perfect.
Right,
well
so
then,
you can open another one
fine.
there,
But are you sure it doesn't take
Not
3
to
cans? I think this might be a 4 or 5 can dish.
So
Right here.
it takes 1 7/8 cans. So
All right. Well, let's see.
there you go.
Oh. Mm-hmm. What about
that's
me?
tasty.
I'm not
Here you
pregnant
are,
anymore.
Ashley. Well, you're a
I
classy
like
lady.
beer for breakfast.
I'm going to give you a glass.
Okay, so you mix it all together,
Right.
and then what is the oven set at?
Oven set at 350.
All right. And then you said you cook it for quite a long time.
A very important part, we can keep this covered.
Covered the whole
cover
time.
is going to keep most of the liquid in. It's going to simmer slowly. You really don't hardly need this much attention here. Check it after 2 hours or so. When the meat is really tender and falling apart, it's done. And we're going to come back and show you what it looks like.
Sounds good to
Wonderful.
me.
Well, congratulations again on 25 years this year, Chef Michael. I can't wait to try that recipe. I can smell it. It smells amazing.
Welcome back to Mass Appeal.
We are back with Chef Michael Ballin from Castle Street Cafe in Great Barrington. It smells amazing in here. The short ribs are out of the oven 3
Wink,
hours
wink.
later, and they're ready to eat.
All right.
So more or less what happened, in case you missed this earlier, we put that in the oven for about 3 hours, and we're simulating it now. We have a finished product here, and you're right, everything's cooked
Just
down.
want to show you what happens to those shallots after about 2 hours in the oven. They're very tender, they fall apart. They have that sweet onion flavor that just goes so well with beef and with beer.
Yes, which we have right
Now
here.
you cook with and you drink.
Why not?
And then we're going to put that in a nice plate with some mashed potatoes that are
Homemade
ready to go.
mashed potatoes.
Do you have any mashed potato secrets for people? Because I think it's one of those things that everybody can make, but people can't make great mashed potatoes. How do you do it?
Don't skimp on the butter and salt.
Okay, that's fine by me.
Good tip. All right, while you're plating that up, tell us about your cookbook. Well, I know you have a cookbook, but you're also coming out with a book of it's kind of the memoirs of a chef.
Well, we've been in business for 25 years. The Castle Street Cafe cookbook came out about 5 years ago with just some favorite recipes from the restaurant. But I've also been writing some articles about just what it's like to be a chef and run a restaurant. You know, when I first started cooking, there were no TV shows with chefs cooking.
No.
And now everybody is fascinated with the life of a chef. Everybody goes out to dinner. Everybody takes pictures on their phone of what they're having for dinner in the restaurant. So
That's true.
It's
It's
become
very true.
It's become so in, and I just thought that we should people would be interested in a little feel for what it's like to be a chef. And one of the other things I like about this dish in particular is it's juicy.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most important attributes of food that I can think of is that we like food that is juicy and moist. And,
It's comfort food.
It is comfort food, and I think this would go just A1 at halftime of the Super Bowl.
Oh, are you kidding? Yeah, this is top of my list.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Now, Michael, you have this. It's probably a mainstay on the menu. What else are some of your favorite dishes that you make?
Right now we're serving in the wintertime roasted salmon with roasted root vegetables, but as the season changes, we'll be doing salmon with asparagus and salmon with mango salsa and salmon with tomato basil sauce. So whatever's fresh and seasonal we do. We're one of the only places that makes cassoulet, which is a really classic French dish from the south of France. That's braised lamb shank and garlic sauces and white beans. But we also have vegan and vegetarian and pasta and burgers. And, you know, I want the restaurant to be a place where anyone can walk in the door and say, hey, there's something I can eat here.
Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, it bears repeating. It's local ingredients, and you highlight the farms that put, you know, you were saying earlier, it's not just duck with these greens, it's duck with greens from this farm.
Absolutely, and I have been putting the names of the farms on the menu of my restaurant before the phrase farm to table even was invented. So the original menu from my restaurant 25 years ago, the backside listed the local dairy farm, the local cheese maker, the local bread maker, the local pasta maker, all that stuff, and we've been doing that ever since.
And now 25 years later, you're celebrating this anniversary, and you're still supporting local business. I think that's wonderful, Chef Michael. All I can think about is taking a bite
I know.
of this.
I'd love to
It
sit
smells
and
amazing.
chat.
Now people can go and visit you in Great Barrington, and of course, like you said, that the musical venue is right there.
Yeah, the
performance
Navy is right
venue.
next door. So, and plus our own music as well. We try and make it really comfortable for people.
So once
I'm
again,
gonna dig in.
it's
Thank
fun,
you,
it's
Chef.
easy, and if you want to learn more about Castle Street Cafe, just visit them online or give them a call, 413-528-5244, to make your reservations today.